Irving A. Isaacs was a man of vision, a man of wealth and entrepreneurship. Born in the city of Boston in 1898, he had 5 siblings: Amelia, Felicia, Fidel, Charlotte, and Delby. He got his first job at an engineering firm, where he worked as an all-purpose office boy. He was also manager of the baseball team. Isaacs then studied business practices under Joseph P. Kennedy, who managed movie theaters in Boston. Isaacs would soon, after working his way up, buy the theaters from Joseph Kennedy. He learned by watching what other people did, and he read a lot of books. Irving also studied philosophy at a place called the Pudding Stone Club, from the works of Plato and Socrates. He went into a lot of businesses, such as real estate. His daughter, Diane Isaacs, soon to be Diane Weil, recalls one of them which he spent a lot of time
on. Broker's license, and he became a realtor in commercial real estate in Boston, which meant he was interested in helping people either buy or lease properties in the city of Boston, and that's what he did.
It was during this time that he fell in love with Frances Gerber and soon asked for her hand in marriage. He built another movie theater in the Park Square of Roxbury, where he ran documentaries and newsreels next to a bus station. It was nothing short of genius. People who were waiting for the bus would pay to see these reels in order to kill time, and it was on this theater that he made most of his fortune. Isaacs named it the Telepix Cinema, and it ran successfully until the day he died. In 1929, Irving Isaacs was 31 years old and a very wealthy man. The hustle and bustle of the 20s had him overflowing with customers, and he himself was buying all sorts of new-age electronics, like a dishwasher, a radio, and a car. He owned 3 houses, one at 125 Bay State Road in Boston, which they filled with antiques, one in Maine at River Road in West Baldwin, and one in Newton at 18 Stewart Road. His daughter, Diane, would explain how his jobs worked and how he was able to maintain these houses.
On a series of jobs. When you're in business as a realtor, you have your finger in more than one pie, so you're constantly looking for opportunities to make money. So he had the Telepix Cinema at the same time. He was also always looking to see how he could supplement that income by doing real estate deals in the city of Boston.
He had invested heavily, about $200,000, which was a lot of money at the time, in stocks from a man named Ivan Kruger, and come Black Tuesday, when the stock market crashed, he lost it all. He hid the newspaper from his wife that day, but eventually he had to sell his house in Newton. He still had 2 houses, one in Maine and one in Boston, and a large wad of money in his pockets, so he was fine overall. With peace and glory ahead. During the Great Depression, he was never really that depressed, because he never had any real trouble with money. When most people look at the Great Depression, they see people starving on the streets, lining up at soup kitchens, and sleeping on benches, whereas Irving was not only completely unaffected, he was tipping back beers with a wide smile on his face. He stayed in Maine during most of the Great Depression, where the taxes were very low, playing croquet, golf, and squash with his friends, who were also very wealthy. He was able to buy his wife a Nash Rambler sports car because he loved to indulge her. One day she tells him she likes music, and he buys her a piano which was never played. He had a brother-in-law who was laid off his job at the factory, which he hired to work at the cinema because he believed strongly in lending a hand to family. However, Isaacs didn't necessarily care about anyone else outside the bubble of his bloodline. He didn't care about the Hoovervilles or the homeless people. He was a conservative Republican, a social Darwinist, so to speak, who thought that government programs set in place to help the populace were free handouts for the lazy. He did help some people in some cases. His daughter was able to explain how.
He and his friends would go to Maine. That was an inexpensive way for men to bond, and they would go out and they would hunt deer. And if they shot them, they would give the deer to the local farmers who really needed the deer to sustain them through the long winter. So in that case, he was conscious that there were people who were less well off than he, and that was a way he could help them out.
His daughter was born in 1923, and he sheltered her from everything that was going on at the time of the Great Depression. He wanted it to be a nurturing environment for his children, so he kept them in Maine. All in all, he was a wealthy, happy man over the course of his life. In the 50s, he purchased a hotel alongside his two theaters in Providence, Rhode Island, called the Narragansett. Eventually, he sold his house in Boston and retired to Jekyll Island, Georgia. Say that 3 times fast. He was able to send 2 of his sons to MIT and held 3 marriages in his house in Maine for his children. He died in 1934, leaving his houses and everything they kept to his children. His memory and success live on through his children and shall do so in this movie as well. Thank you.
Look up the sky.